She pulled the shade down over the door and waved a hand toward the big store window. It covered with frost. It was impossible to see in or out. Bruce swallowed again. Oh, fuck, he muttered through his hand. Oh, fuck is right. And your head is pretty big, she said, and smiled. But I think I can manage. She started to change her appearance in front of him. Her tight leather dress, complete with little spikes, seemed to spread over her skin and then seemed to fuse with her hair. She also seemed to start to grow. Bruce stared in horror as the dress seemed to go under her face and dissolve the beauty of it, and then expand it, giving the girl a rictus smile of sharpened teeth. Teeth that gnashed together and made a spark. The girl thing was now spreading huge wings that looked like the tight dress with the little spikes all over it. Her whole body seemed to be covered in it, and her whole body looked like a vicious, brutal beast that in all of his life Bruce had never thought actually existed. The entire exchange took 15 seconds, but to Bruce it was forever. When he was done, he suddenly knew what it was that he saw, and it was looking right back at him. Bruce cleared his throat. Well, I guess you could eat my head if you wanted to, he said quietly. Clearly, she said through his teeth. Her teeth, excuse me. Wait a fucking free. And that's a small.
And your books are retail where, Nelson?
Well, soon this will be available at LJ's soon-to-be named something different, Charlotte. You can get it, as Eric said, on Amazon.com. You can get it for Kindle or for paperback. It is paperback is $16 and some change or whatever Amazon likes to tack on. You can get it right here at this show. Lovely Paul is displaying there.
Thank you, Vanna.
I'm a very hot Vanna, thank you.
He really is. And you can get it here for $12. If you buy a copy of Demons, Dolls, and Milkshakes, you get a free comic book that was created by Dr. Towers, Johnny Axe over here. And thank you for that. And just real quick, the cover was done by an artist out of Wisconsin named Maddie Von Stark. And she is a fantastic artist. She's a fantastic author. And she kicked it out in about 15 minutes, actually. You just sent it to me. He's like, here, how's this? I'm like, sold. And there you go.
And you have other short stories.
I do.
In collections out there for sale as well, right?
Yes, I do. The publisher of this novel and a bunch of the anthologies I'm in, the publisher's name is Postmortem Press. They're out of Cincinnati. Probably one of the better publishers that I've worked with, if not my favorite. I was glad that they. Shut up, Paul. I'm glad that they published this. This is my first full-length novel. There is Fear the Abyss, which I'm in, and Paul Anderson is in that as well as Gary Broadback, Jessica McHugh, Harlan Ellison. If you hear a thud, by the way, during the show, it's because Paul Anderson's dropping a name of a big author.
I can't help, I'm friends with him.
Okay, it's fine.
Show everybody your cell phone.
Oh, yeah. How's Harlan?
See, you know, and to stand and show that that's not bullshit, he's showing her his cell phone. It's like, hey, Harlan Ellison.
And Gary, actually.
And Gary. That's true. But Fear the Abyss has one of my favorite short stories, Box of Candy. There's Dark Doorways, there's Mon Cor Mort. And stop by the PMP table, there's a ton of awesome other books that I do not appear in.
For anybody who loved or hated Twilight, which book is that story?
That is, I wrote a story called Where the Apple Shine Doesn't Reach, Where the Apple Shine Won't Reach, and it's my anti-Twilight story.
I highly recommend it if you love Twilight or if you hated Twilight. Either way, there's a lot in there to love.
Yeah, I really liked that one. Isn't it called Beyond the Apple Shine?
No.
Am I wrong? For some reason, I always thought that's what it was called. What did you say it was called?
Where the Apple Shine Won't Reach.
Won't reach. Okay, I was close.
Yeah.
There's apple shine in it somewhere.
Yeah. There's
There's apples, there's sand.
Like, listen, you don't have to do
Something about an apple not going somewhere.
But there's no sparkly vampires in it.
So, and this is the part where you guys all get to ask questions. So, questions?
So, Eric, I know you wanted to take like a whole different look of like the whole zombie apocalypse and like take a kind of like a closer look into it. Is there anything that you went to through history that kind of gave you inspiration for kind of the feel of the world that you kind of created?
Well,
it's kind of hard to do that. I mean, you can take inspiration from, but you're considering the modern world.
Yeah.
And except for some third world countries, we really haven't had any kind of massive deterioration. There hasn't been like a whole nation that's just kind of crumbled. So there's a lot of things like, say, when society breaks down, of course, the first thing it shuts off is power. Next thing it shuts off is gas. Next thing it shuts off is water. So you're left with all these infrastructures. And in this day and age, if you have a modern society that goes down, you're going to have a lot of dangers going on. You're going to have chemical plants with all kinds of things happening that over time, things start leaking, things start happening. Just septic systems. And that is addressed in the book over the course of, at that point, 7 years. You're going to have a lot of that infrastructure that we relied on is falling apart in very dangerous ways, which just adds one more layer to the poor people who are stuck there. But I actually took more of the modern from how we've dealt with and how other countries dealt with tragedy and loss, and just kind of glossed it all over. And once you have a few telethons for it, it just kind of goes away. They're forgotten. So, yeah, to answer your question, there was some research in those things, but a lot of those things you just kind of have to look at and just logically extrapolate what would happen to a modern industrialized society if nothing is maintained and nothing is done for over 7 years. What happens? So, yeah, just one more thing to worry about.
I have a question for you. Do you watch Revolution?
I'm not familiar with it as a show,
Oh,
a
you
particular
should
series.
watch it. Yeah.
My
Is
day
JJ
job is I work 12-hour shifts, 12 on, 12 off, and it's really cut into my writing time and my viewing time,
Okay.
unfortunately.
That just reminded me because it's about what happens when the power goes off, but it starts 15 years after the power's been off.
I think I've heard of it. I
It's
just
really good.
haven't
It's
seen
J.J.
it.
Abrams. I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it might be worth a watch
Give me
still.
the face.
Just check it out.
Okay, I have a question for you too.
I'm sorry?
I said I have a question for you too.
Okay.
Okay, so when we first met, it was like 2005 or 2006, and you were working on Stitch. How long before that were you working on it?
Not really too much.
Oh, really? So it was like.
It was like kind of the. Well, I met Alicia. Alicia's a friend of mine. We've known each other for quite some time now. And I was working at a cemetery. And for three years I worked at that cemetery. And that kind of atmosphere, like there was a lot of free time to noodle around ideas. And I wrote a lot of short work in that period. And the idea was really just starting to form with this story. And the main part of the story, the middle part of the story was actually the part that I started working on first. And the original initial idea was it was going to be like an online serial, and I would write 10 pages, post it, wait a little while, put another couple, but it never really, I'm really terrible with blogging, and I'm good with a schedule, but not for something like that. I either just have to sit down and just do it until I'm done. And the idea of just like writing a little bit, waiting a little while until everybody's caught up, and then you write a little more, it was getting to be a real pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And I wound up putting it down for a while.
Yeah, because I know with me, I've been working on a book for 3 years, and I feel like it'll be 3 years in November. I feel like I could have had it done so much longer, a long time ago, because I'll go like 2 days and I'll write like 20,000 words. And then I won't write for months.
Yeah.
And then I write another 20,000 words, and then I won't write for months. I know you seem to have a good schedule going now for yourself, and
Well,
I wish I could do that.
Well, it takes a little bit of this. I mean, my whole writing schedule is based around the fact that I'm married and I have 2 small children, but they're getting bigger.
So you
by-
have an
by the
excuse.
day.
I don't.
Well, I mean, it's not even an excuse. I mean, if you want to do it badly enough, you will make the time that you need for it. I get up, here's where I pay for it. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day, and then I write until it's time for me to, get the kids up and give them breakfast and stuff. Now the problem with kind of forcing yourself to do that is your body will become acclimated to getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, regardless of, you know, what time you went to bed. You went to bed at 2 o'clock. F you, your body's getting up at 4. Like, hey, where's coffee? Come on, let's go write 500 words before, you know. So I mean, it's not. There's a certain point, like you have to be have a little bit of discipline, but after a certain point, your body just takes it over because now it's a habit.
Yeah.
And it's a drag when you're on vacation and you don't want to write anything and you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you're like, well, let's see what's on YouTube.
How do you fit your writing into your day?
Well, like I said, at this point with my day job and the kind of schedule I'm on, basically 4 days of the week are shot. I'm either driving to work, I'm working, I'm driving home from work, or I'm sleeping. That's pretty much it. So when I get the chance to write, in between everything else, home, family, and all those kind of things, the car is always broke down, this is always happening, you always got to cut the grass, whatever. I tend to write in big chunks at this point. I'll sit down, and when I do have a few hours where I can write, I'll put down 10, 15,000 words. It'll just come off. I might have to go back and kill 3,000 of them pretty quickly, but I've come to find at this point, until I can get my life back into a regular schedule, because when I'm in my standard writing schedule, 3,000 to 5,000 words a day is nothing. I can drop that out in 3 hours, 3-4 hours. It's not a problem. That's where a lot of my short fiction came from, was time like that. But right now, it's very difficult to do that. So I've been kind of like grabbing what time I can and pounding a bunch of words down, and you know, not really going back and do any editing at this point. I figured just try to throw everything down for a particular project I'm working on currently, get it all out there, and then my lovely wife will take it and she'll go through with a big red pencil and wear down about 3 of them and go, cut this, cut this, cut this, this is crap, this is crap. Would you please learn how to spell heroin correctly? Oh yeah, and the 87,000 that's, yeah, I just killed half your novel, sorry. And then whatever's left over with, then I can go back and do that.
So you have the advantage or possibly the disadvantage, depending on how you look at it, of having literally an in-house editor.
Oh no, I think that's a great advantage. So it's just the way it is. Because when you've got that, where when our system works properly, before I was stuck into these shifts, I could write 3,000 to 5,000 words and in-house email, just email it to her, and I can keep going. And then she'd come back or walk down the basement where I keep my little writing hovel and go, "What's this? You know, do you know how to spell? you have 27 that's. What is this? You know." You know, I just leave that hunting to her because she seems to enjoy it so much more than I do. You know, that way she can come back and go, "Hey, Mr. Novel Writer, there's 27 that's and 4 paragraphs. Come on, what are you doing?" Well, the problem is once your mind starts going, you don't realize you're writing as you're speaking.
Yeah,
right. And that's where your problem comes in. Having a good editor is almost as important as having a good idea in the first place. So.
Do either one of you guys use any software? Like any editing software, anything like that?
Word.
Yeah, same here.
I've used AutoCrit, and it will do things like pick out if you have that in there a billion times. It'll say you have that in here.
I feel the same way about software like that I do about cars that park themselves. If I need that, I'm not writing.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm not the writer at that point. I'm a co-writer.
A lot of people say, you know, you can put like a best-selling novel in there and it's still going to come up with all kind of crap, you know what I mean? And that's true, but I feel like it can if you just use it as a guide and not as a template, you know what I mean?
And I see that, and that's fine. Just I'm old-fashioned. I'm an old man, and I look at it. Come on, I'm from the generation that actually learned to type on a real typewriter. Right. You know, it's. I don't like a computer, I don't like a car, I don't like it telling me what to do. Because here's the problem, as you're going through that, you're going to be so tempted to stop what you're doing and go back and edit in the middle of a thought.
Yeah.
Don't interrupt it. Keep writing. If you want to take a whole day and just go back through and let the computer tell you what it thinks is wrong, keep in mind it's a computer. It can only go off of a structure or grammar. It can't feel what you're saying. Yeah. It doesn't know what you're saying. The problem with a program like that is, let's say you get 800 words down, and you start to look at it, and it's got all kinds of red lines and squiggly things and potatoes. You know what you're going to do? You're going to stop writing and go back and read it. Don't stop writing. Keep writing. That's it. You can worry about the rest of it at the end. Or you go to your editor and go, "Hey, Mr. Editor, I'm going to make you earn your money." There you go.
Yeah,
Get the idea out. Get the story out. Do not stop the flow of creativity for editing. The people with the red pencils, that's what they get paid for. They enjoy it. Let them do it.
Do you enjoy it?
If we're not talking about zombie alligators, yes, she does enjoy it.
It depends on the piece.
Yeah, I mean, that's, to tack on what Eric said, I mean, part of what makes being a writer cool is it is a craft. I mean, it's a skill. I mean, you don't just, you don't just start doing it and it's like, well, I've written this story and I'm a writer. It's up to him.
What's going on, sir?
I mean, it is a craft. I mean, and doing it a lot gets you better. If there's somebody constantly harping on you, well, that's the wrong word for that. Well, that's the wrong context for that. A lot of people, like you said, a lot of people write the way that they speak. That comes in really handy dialogue. When I'm in the middle of writing exchanges between characters, the word program that I use looks like a traffic accident.
I've trained mine after so many years.
I was gonna say,
Mine has a better vocabulary of slang than most people do.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna say, actually, what he's saying there, the slang, writing not to detract from what you're saying, sir. But what you're saying, say it in the words you're saying. I feel just writing movie reviews. If you write it in the words how you say it, me, Yinzer, language, I literally broke a computer. Gross Movie Reviews, Volume 1, about 8 years ago when I wrote that book. My computer, literally the hard drive died when I pushed enter on lulu.com to put that in there. My hard drive said, I give up. It never came back on because, like he was saying, the spell check, Galaxy Dictionary, when you're in Microsoft Word or if you're on Mac, if it doesn't recognize the word, you're fighting with the computer the whole time when you're typing your own language in there. And I just feel if you're not typing how you speak, you're lying to yourself when you're writing a novel, a review, a short story. It just doesn't make sense unless you say it in your own words.
Right. My favorite function in Word is the ignore all.
Yes. Thank you.
Actually, on my Word, I didn't have to actually turn off my paperclip guy like everybody else has to do. My paperclip guy just came up one day and went, "Dude, you're not gonna take this shit seriously. I'm just gonna go away." He thought I was a little bicycle and he just went away.
My puppy got on a skateboard.
I'm done, and he's gone.
Do you ever get where it has a little red line under it and it doesn't recognize the grammar?
I have an editor for that. I let the red line stand, and then my editor goes back through and says, "Oh, this is here's my cardinal rule." When I tell any editor, if it's between quotation marks, it's mine. If it's outside of quotation marks, it's yours. If it's dialogue, unless it's something so glaring, it's dialogue. Leave it alone, because that's the characters talking. Outside of the quotation marks is me talking, and I have all kinds of faults. I fully expect the red pencil to come out at that point.
Oh, sure.
But if it's in between those quotation marks, I own it. And my characters own that. Leave it alone. If it's something so bad or, obvious misspelling I'm going through and I'm typing and my big fat fingers, I'm not the world's greatest typist. I can go pretty well, but, then fine, let's correct that. But, yeah, the rest of it belongs to me. So.
Nelson, so do you think that you... I'm sorry, did you have Go ahead.
Right in front of you.
Come on, 88, Johnny X, come on.
That was like,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so you worked on this book for a while, but you were also continuing to write and do other things. Do you feel like as you went back to this book that it would start to turn into some other creature that you didn't expect, or did you have to go back and train it back into kind of like a writing style that is consistent? What was that like?
The first part of the book that I got done, this is again tacking on to what Eric said. Like, write it all the way through, finish what you start. Don't start looking back until you're done. And almost the entire middle section of the book was the first part of the book that was done. And I got done, and I'm high-fiving myself, and I'm breaking my neck, patting myself in the back. And then I realized, like, wow, it's about 30,000 words. It's not a novel. It's not even close. So I had to put it down for a little bit. I'm like, okay, do I put this aside for a while, make it a novella, rewrite it, make it longer? And what I ended up doing was adding a second part to it, which is almost the same length, if not longer than the first half of the book. And that's the one I started the 4 a.m. to 7 a.m.